Ladies and gentlemen, hey, hi, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. Honestly, right now, the Warzone meta, I would say, is in a pretty good place. Of course, come Season 2, we're probably going to see some weapon tuning here and there, but when it comes down to it, there's a lot of pretty solid options to use between primaries and secondaries right now. A good mix of Vanguard weapons, Modern Warfare weapons, Cold War weapons, and today I wanted to break down my current top 5 best meta loadouts to be using, the absolute best guns, best attachments, the single best loadouts you can run in any given mode. So, as we go over it all, if you enjoy the video at any point, let me know by dropping a like on it, and of course, if you're new to the channel or if you haven't subbed yet, around 58% of viewers watching are not subscribed, and every single day I got you covered with all things going on in COD, news, updates, loadouts, tips. It is all right here. Also, if you haven't heard, Gamer Advantage just released the brand new suppressor lens. These are basically totally clear lens that still offer blue light protection. So if you guys want to check out that, they now have the 2 lens options and plenty of different frame options to choose from, and as always, Code Immortal has you covered there for a nice little discount. So first up here, I want to get the obvious one out of the way, right? The BREN and the MP40 are still, without a doubt, as a combination, in my opinion, the single best loadout in the entire game. At the same time, this meta here with this combination is a little bit boring in my opinion at this point. It's been like this for well over a month, and while we have seen some slight nerfs to both the BREN and the MP40, this loadout is still insane. I imagine these will probably get nerfed more over the course of time, but as it stands right now, this setup is one that will not fail you. Real quick, perks and equipment before we break down all the attachments and everything. This is the same on every single one of my loadouts. As always, I'm running the EOD, Overkill, and Amped with a throwing knife and the stim. Stim's going to give you that speed boost. It can also help out with your health. The throwing knife is there for those easy finishes. The only thing that'll ever change is if I'm able to grab a second loadout, I'll go ahead and swap out Overkill for restock, so I can keep replenishing my stims and my throwing knife, of course. But when it comes to the attachments here for the BREN, this one's pretty straightforward. Same setup that we've been rocking for quite some time. First things first, Mercury silencer on there for the better control and also to keep us off the map. We are still, in fact, running the Royal barrel. While it does not have that infinite damage range anymore, it's still the best long-range barrel in the game, at least for the BREN, that is. For the optic here, I'm always going for the 3 to 6 times pretty much on any of my ranged weapons. It's just a nice clean optics, got like that T-pose reticle, and you can get some decent visibility with that. For the stock here, Hawk and Sun is absolutely the way to go. Gonna give you that better control during sustained fire, which is anytime you're shooting the gun, right? So nice and easy to use there. I personally prefer hand stop over Carver on here. While Carver technically does reduce recoil more over range, hand stop to me with the added horizontal and vertical control just feels a lot more consistent. I feel like I land more shots when using that. For the magazine here, we're still going for the Sakura rounds, better fire rate, but more importantly, better control and accuracy. So over range, this thing is just an absolute beast. For the ammo here, of course, we're going for lengthened to give us that better bullet velocity. For the rear grip, as always, we're going for polymer here as well. Again, better control during sustained fire. Same deal with the perk. Tight grip is going to offer more of that better control. So really, at any range, this thing's going to have very minimal recoil and really will feel like an absolute laser beam. Then I'm also going for fully loaded to max out that assault rifle ammo. All around, same BREN setup we've been using, but it still is an absolute beast. Now looking at the MP40 again, nothing's really changed with the setup here. We're going for the recoil booster first and foremost. That'll give us that better fire rate and make this even more aggressive. Going for the first barrel here, the 317 for the better control generally. Really all the barrels here are not super great options. That's just like the lesser evil, if you will. For the optic here, going for the ISO 1M. Basically just your default iron sight, but it has a faster ADS, and I really like the look of that. For the stock here, folding is a key part. I see a lot of people going for removed. All you're really getting out of removed here is slightly better movement speed and also the better hip fire, whereas folding is giving you the better movement speed, but also better sprint to fire, which is crucial on a sub like this. So folding is absolutely the way to go. For the underbarrel here, I'm going for the pistol grip. Again, better sprint to fire speed on there as well. For the magazine, the Garanko 45 round mag is absolutely the way to go yet again. Better movement, better fire rate, better control, like all around. While it does hurt your damage a little bit, this is by far the best mag to use. For the ammo, of course, we're going for incendiary. That burn effect is pretty clutch sometimes. It just makes this weapon even more lethal up close. For the rear grip, I'm still going for polymer just to give me that better control during sustained fire. For perk 1, I'm not gonna lie, these perks are really not great on the MP40 when it comes down to it. You can try and use unmarked. It gives you that sort of position concealment there, which is nice in some cases, but I just opt for steady. Gives me that better ADS firing move speed, or that better strafe speed, which is just good for those close range fights. And then I also go for quick or fully loaded. Either of those will work just fine for a sub, but I like to get that better sprint speed, so quick is usually my default choice for that. Now moving on to the second loadout, this is a combination of the Cooper Carbine and the Owen gun. These two are probably my 2 favorite weapons in the entire game right now. The Cooper is perfect for some close medium medium, and occasionally some long range fights. While it is my primary here, this is a much more aggressive loadout. The Cooper does not have that infinite range that, let's say, a BREN or a BAR would, but for medium range, it's pretty much the best gun in the game. It's also very versatile for some close range fights if you need, and the Owen gun is kind of more the same. It's especially good for close range, has an insane TTK that actually rivals the MP40. Both these together are just TTK powerhouses. I love this setup for the Owen. Again, a pretty similar setup to what we've been using previously. Mercury silencer, same deal as over on the BREN. Cooper custom barrel here is going to give us better control, but also better fire rate, which is pretty ideal. So that makes it even better for some of those medium range fights. You could easily go for a 3 to 6 times scope if you wanted to here. Personally, I like rocking the G16 2.5 times. It's just nice and ideal for really any ranged fight, so it works well regardless of where you're fighting in any given engagement. For the stock here, I'm going for the 45 RS. It just feels like it's more consistent than the padded. While the padded does give you better control during sustained fire, the 45 RS, to me, that initial firing recoil makes it a laser beam through and through. We have other attachments that help with that control during sustained fire as well, so you basically just get more pros out of using the 45 RS here. For the underbarrel, again, I'm going for hand stop. For the magazine, another key one here, going for the 9mm 60. Again, it is hurting your damage and your velocity some for those ranged fights, but it just makes it so easy to use. It feels like it has no recoil. It absolutely fries because the fire rate is so fast. Like, I just love that. Still going for lengthened here for the ammo upgrade for the better velocity than polymer, because we are still using this as like that semi-ranged weapon. For perk 1 here, tight grip is an absolute must for that better control. And again, we're going for fully loaded in perk 2 to maximize our ammo. Like I said, one of my favorite setups in the game. Then for the Owen gun, we've been talking a lot about this recently because I am just loving this thing. Recoil booster yet again here for that better fire rate. You could either go for the shrouded barrel here if you want this is more of like a sniper support build, or rapid is what I've been using for those close range fights. It just increases that fire rate yet again, and while it does hurt the damage because it increases the fire rate, the TTK is still very, very solid. For the optic here, this is probably the most important part of the entire setup. You want to go for the Slate 2.5 times custom, because then when you switch to the red dot, the magazine is not in your way like it would be on a normal red dot sight, so that's a huge part of this. For the stock here, going for the remove stock for the better mobility and whatnot there, making this a more aggressive SMG. I do go for the hand stop in this case instead of the pistol grip, just because there's a little bit more recoil that's noticeable on the Owen versus like the MP40. For the magazine, going for the Gorenko 72 rounds. Again, gonna give me that better fire rate and better control, making it more aggressive. Incendiary yet again. Polymer grip yet again. For perk 1 here, I actually go for acrobatic. If you wanted to use, say, combat scout instead, you could use fleet because it gives you that better weapon swap, but for me, acrobatic works just fine. It makes this a lot more agile. And then again, you could either go for quick or fully loaded, whichever one you want. I personally prefer quick, but both of those are great options. Now for loadout number 3, this is an interesting one. We got the Cold War AK, which, yes, still is an absolute beast with one of the best TTKs over range in the game. Then also the brand new Welgun, which, as we know, is one of the best SMGs in the game in terms of TTK. It's actually better than the MP40 in quite a few situations. Very solid setup here that has a great TTK all around. For the Cold War AK, this is going to be the same setup that we've been running for ages and ages now. Grew suppressor alongside the RPK barrel for the best velocity, control, and range out of those. Also going to go for the Spetsnaz grip here for better control, alongside either the 45 round mag or the 60 round mag. You're a bit slower with 60. Either of these works just fine. I prefer 45. It also matches with the blueprint here. And we also go for the axial arms 3 times optic as always. Like I said, same AK setup that we've been running for a long time now. Then on the Welgun, this thing, you got a couple of different ways you could build it. First and foremost, either you're going for the recoil booster or the Mercury silencer. Both work well here. Obviously, the Mercury silencer is going to make it a bit more sniper support-esque, whereas recoil is making it more aggressive in general. So I go for recoil personally. For the barrel, I see a lot of players running the short barrel. I think that's a great option. It makes it really good for those close range fights. Personally, though, I just prefer the shrouded. I feel like this works better, makes it a lot more versatile. So while I still have the close range capability because of the good fire rate, I have good damage and good mobility up close. This makes it a little bit more viable for some close and some medium range fights if you ever need it there. So shrouded works pretty well for me. For the optic, I'm going for the basic slate reflector, just, you know, your average red dot. For the stock here, skeletal is pretty much my go-to in most cases. You could also go for remove stock though. It's going to give you a little bit more mobility, but also hurt your control a little bit more. Either or here works just fine. Skeletal is going to be a lot easier to use. Remove stock's going to give you a lot more benefits as an aggressive player. So it just comes down to whichever you prefer. For the underbarrel here, I do feel like you need a bit of recoil control. It's not the absolute laser beam that the MP40 is. You could definitely try and run the pistol grip if you wanted to, but I feel like hand stop is a nice safe choice there to just make it nice and versatile and easy to use. For the magazine, this is one where a lot of players are going back and forth. honestly, the basic extended mag works pretty solid. The base TTK is not too shabby at all. I see a lot of players going for the Gorenko 48 round mags for the better fire rate, the better control like we usually use on quite a few weapons, but the 45 round 48 with the better damage also work very well too. So really, you got any option here minus the first magazine. Any of these will work just fine. I like to use the basic 64 round mag or the Gorenko. I just feel like those are the easiest to use. I'm landing the most shots with those, so both of those work really, really well. I think Isaac is also a big fan of these. Really, it comes down to how you want the gun to feel. Better damage, better control, or just a decent, well-rounded TTK. Again, as always, we're going for the incendiary rounds here. No-brainer pick. Also, polymer yet again for the better control. For perk 1, I like to use acrobatics still. Gung Ho is a good choice too, especially as an aggressive sub. Both of those are going to be pretty solid. Either better movement or that better sprint to fire, whichever you desire more. And then, as always, quick or fully loaded for the perks. Now, after that, we've got the XM4 and the Vanguard PPSH. XM4, like the AK, really hasn't changed. It's still an absolute beast. And the PPSH from Vanguard specifically is so good in close range because the hip fire is absolutely insane. Same setup as always on the XM4 here, going for agency and task force. Of course, we're going for the 3x optic as always, either the 60 or the 45 round mag here yet again, and of course field agent for the better control. Raider I would like to run on here instead of field agent, but because the nerf that they gave that with the Pacific updates, running field agent is just a lot more beneficial now. But like I said, same setup as always. And for the Vanguard PPSH, we are pretty much just focused on hip fire here. So you can either go for the oil can suppressor and give you better accuracy and keep you off the minimap, or you can go for the recoil booster and make it the most aggressive close range weapon in the game pretty much. For the barrel, we're going to go for the 230mm BO3P. This is all based around hip fire, so it's going to be perfect for those builds. For the optic here, while you're not really ever using it, you still do get the pros out of this if you end up using an optic that has, say, better accuracy and better control. So you can use any optic here that is going to increase that, and it'll work just fine for those benefits. So like the 2.5 gives you better control and better accuracy. That'll work while you're hip firing still, which is pretty nice. For the stock here, going for removed, best hip fire accuracy and also best mobility. For the underbarrel here, Carver foregrip's going to give you better hip fire accuracy as well. Or you could also use the steady grip, which is better hip fire too and has no cons there. So both of those work just fine. For the mag here, the Gorenko 71 round basic extended mag works solid, but the Nambu 71 with the better fire rate, the better accuracy, all that is going to be perfect for this hip fire setup. So I run that. As always, incendiary. For the rear grip, not going for polymer in this case. I know, big surprise. Instead, we're going to go for the pine tar grip because this also gives us better hip fire accuracy. For perk 1, you got a couple of options here. Fleet's going to give you that better weapon swap quickness and better movement speed, so that's not a bad option. Tight grip is also going to give you that better recoil and accuracy during sustained fire though, which I personally prefer, so I'm going to go ahead and run that. And in this case, I do run fully loaded over quick just because with hip fire, you do have the chance to miss more shots and you might run out of ammo a little bit quicker, so I like to have that maxed out ammo for that. And then finally, to round things out, we got my sniper setup. This is going to feature the MW car, then also the Cooper Carbine. Same exact Cooper Carbine setup as before, so we don't need to go over that again. But for the MW car here, this to me is still the most consistent sniper. It's what I feel the most comfortable with. The Vanguard snipes just don't feel good. They have awful flinch. They just don't feel like they're really hitting that hard. So I prefer to use the MW car, still going for monolithic and the 27.6 inch barrel. As always, nothing's changed there. We're also running the tac laser for the better ADS speed and stability. For the optic here, I prefer just the default sniper scope, but then I also go ahead and throw on the cross thread reticle. I know quite a few players also like using cover shot. That's a pretty good reticle as well, but cross thread for me just works really well. And then because the flinch nerf that the car got with the whole Pacific update, I go ahead and actually use focus here for my last attachment. I'd like to run the sport comb stock and get a better ADS, or even the stipple grip tape and get a better ADS, but the flinch is a lot more noticeable and focus helps out a lot with that, so I end up running that instead. But with all that being said, those are my current top 5 best meta loadouts to be using here in Warzone right now. That's going to wrap things up for today. If you enjoyed the video or if you found it helpful, let me know by dropping a like on it. And of course, if you're new to the channel or if you have not subscribed yet, feel free to do so. That way you can always stay up to date with everything going on in COD. But once again, thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, take it easy. Have an awesome rest of your day. I'll catch you guys later. Peace out.